Shabbat Shalom. This is going to be a pretty unique experience. I've never led a service with no one here, so it'll be a new experience for me and for some of you too. I know many of you have attended Rabbi Dan's Friday services until he went on vacation, and I know that Judith has been standing in for him until this evening, and you've got me tonight. So Shabbat Shalom. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Drew Porter, a longtime member of the Hazanut group, and really delighted and privileged to welcome Shabbat with you. Sorry, gotta look at my notes. So, just to get us in the mood, you can sing along or not if you know this, but just if you don't, just listen. Yedid nefesh al harachaman, Yedid nefesh al harachaman, Meshuch avdecha eretz onecha, Yedid nefesh al harachaman, Yedid nefesh al harachaman, Meshuch avdecha eretz onecha, Yarutz avdecha kemo hayal, yishtachavel mu adarecha. Beautiful piece called Yedid Nefesh. As it says right here in the text at the bottom, a love song to the soul of God. It was written by Rabbi Elazar Azikri of Sfat. So I really like that because it's a very relaxing and meditative little piece of music. For those of you who aren't great with the Hebrew, there aren't a lot of words in it, and so, you know, if you practice it just a little bit, it's just a really nice thing to be able to sing when you sit down at your Shabbat table. So before we really get started with this service itself, I wanted to talk about the Parsha, or actually one little tiny piece of the Parsha that I found interesting. This is a big portion. As a matter of fact, it's a double, so there's a lot of pages. And quite frankly, I didn't have the time to read them all. I just got done with the 7:15 tax deadline and had like a day to prepare for this. So if I'm a little rough, I apologize. But anyway, there is this interesting story near the end of this Parsha. The story begins actually in the Parsha before this, in Pinchas. And it's about 5 sisters who don't have a brother. And their father, Salachad, he dies. And at that point in the history of our people, inheritance had been through primogeniture, through the firstborn son. The daughters didn't, at this point, inherit. And the daughters felt, the family line would end, they would be without a home. And they go to Moses, and Moses goes, well, gee, that beats the hell out of me. So he goes and talks to God. And God, not unsurprisingly, sides with the sisters, and they actually received their father's land, sort of the ERA during Torah times. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, who's the retired chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, says that this little story shows the importance in Jewish thought of individual. Yes. Yeah, you know, I'm going to move closer again. I'm getting director's cues from the leadership of the community. I guess I'm not loud enough. So anyway, just to sum up and get back on track here. So Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, he says that this shows the importance. This shows the importance in Jewish thought of individual rights, that God would basically change the rules based on the solid argument that the sisters put to Moses and Moses put to God. So that's in Pinchas, that's last week. And interestingly, the story continues this week. But the story ends with a twist. And God changes his mind, but just a little bit. And he places some conditions on the inheritance. And so, as we sing and as we sit silently and as we welcome this time of rest, I'd like you to think about what might those conditions be, and why is God changing his mind? So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I think those of you who show up at my services know that I really like conversations. That this is going to be a little bit hard for me with nobody here to talk to. So we're gonna light lights, and I hope that you have candles to light too. We're a little early, the sun's still up, but by the time we see the 3 stars, you guys will all be long gone, and I'll have had 1 or 2 of these, and I won't be able to do this. Anyhow. So as we light, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech Haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Let's see if those will stay lit. I don't know. So, in a traditional Jewish household, sitting around the Shabbat table, this might be a time for parents to turn to their children and give them this blessing. If you happen to have a Siddur, it's on page 319. And this is the Aaronic blessing, the threefold blessing for peace. And you probably know that the response is Kain Yehi Ratzon. So let's go. If you feel like it, put your hands on your children's heads. If not, or they they back away in horror, don't do that. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. This is you. Kain Yehi Ratzon Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Kain Yehi Ratzon Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'Hashem lecha shalom. Kain Yehi Ratzon, so may it be. I'm going to go a little out of order from what we usually do, and I'm going to do Kiddush, but I'm not going to do Motzi because I can't have a loaf of challah in the house without eating the whole thing. So you guys eat your challah, but if you have a glass of wine and would like to pick it up now, that would be delightful. Oh, and I'd like to welcome, we have a VIP visitor this evening. My cousin Carolyn, Rabbi Carolyn Braun from the rabbi for the conservative congregation in Portland, Maine. It's nice to see you, Carolyn. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. That's a lovely Silverado Cabernet. I hope you're having something just as enjoyable. I'm going to have one more. So for those of you who can eat bread and don't have a gut like I do, let's do the motzi, and I'll just pretend to eat the bread. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Well, let's see. Why don't we do some more? Oh, shoot. You know, we're probably not going to be able to have those lights staying on, and I'm not going to try and keep them lit. So just pretend they're lit. And hopefully yours stay lit. What are we going to do next? Why don't we, for those of you who have the Siddur, we're gonna go to pages 12 and 13, and we're gonna sing Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bohem Leshalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruchuni Leshalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Seichem Leshalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei HaShalom Malachei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Well, I don't have it memorized clearly, and we'll sing the English, which goes to the same tune. Welcome among us, messengers of Shalom, angels of the highest one, from deep within us, Majesty of majesties, the blessed Holy One. Come then in shalom, blessing us with shalom, leaving us with holy shalom. From deep within us, Majesty of majesties, the blessed Holy One. It's nice. So let's sing a psalm. And if you have your Siddur, we're going to go to page 215, Psalm 121, and we're going to sing Esa Enai, and feel free to join me. Maybe if you sing loud enough, I'll hear you from wherever you are. Esa Enai El Harim Me'ain Yavo Ezri Esa Enai El Harim Me'ain Yavo Ezri Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim V'Haaretz Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim V'Haaretz. In a deep breath. Hopefully, a little bit of the stress of the week is beginning to melt away. It is for me. As I said, it was a tough week, and I'm extremely happy that it's Friday, and that I'm not going to have my eyes on a computer screen tomorrow. Let's sing Psalm 92. For those of you with the Siddur, on page 49. Where is it? Oh no, I have the page reference wrong. Hang on a sec. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. Okay, here we go. It's the last two lines in Hebrew. Magadlu Maasechaya Meoramku Machshevo Techa Magadlu Masechaya Meoramku Machshevo Hecha. The morning doves are singing along with me. It's kind of cool. So that ends the sort of introductory service called Kabbalat Shabbat, and now we go to the what I refer to as the intermission music, the Chatzi Kaddish, which, if you're following along in your Siddur, is on page 55. So we transition from Kabbalat Shabbat. The Jews come out of the fields all dressed in white and come into the synagogue in Shabbat, and they, having finished their opening of Shabbat, move into the Erev service with this. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah v'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayachon v'yomachon v'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael v'agalav v'zon kari v'yimaru amen Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach Le'olam le'ol me'ol maya Yitbarak Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpor v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha Brichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'alma v'yimeru amen. Intermission is over, and we move to the beginning of the Ma'ariv service. And we start with, and I haven't practiced this one, so you're probably going to be looking at my stomach, but we're going to scan for the Baruch. Oh no, you can still see my beard. There I am. Okay. Lie, la, lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, la, lie, 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 lie. Barechu et Adonai ha-mevorach 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 Baruch Adonai ha-mevorach le'olam 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 voed. So I always think about that, like you go to a Broadway musical and they have this, the great opening music before the curtains open, and to me that's, God's opening music. I'm just going to read the Ahavat in English, because we've been doing a lot of Hebrew. And this is the interpretive version that we read a lot on Friday nights. We are loved by an unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us even when we are too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us even when we are too embittered to hear. We are loved by an unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved by an unending love, embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Ours are the arms, the fingers, are the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. Blessed are you, beloved one, who loves your people Israel. And I think that whether or not you believe in a all-seeing, all-knowing God, or some broader, different concept of God, or don't believe in God at all, but believe in the principles of our faith, I think what this interpretive Ahavat is saying is that through our actions, our thoughts, and the way we live our lives, we carry out the mission of God. Yeah, let's see. Oh. Now the main part of the page. So we're going to go to page 65, and we're going to do the Shema together. And you can stand or you can sit and cover your eyes or not, whatever you feel like, but the most important thing is to recognize this sort of central spiritual directive to listen. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malechuto Leolam Voed
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
So now, let's go to, if you have your Siddur, let's go to page 85, and we're going to do the Shamru. So I just want to point out, I mean, everybody that's been to one of our services knows this song, and I wanted to just remind you, you know, kind of what it means. This comes from Exodus, by the way, but it is the commandment to do exactly what we're doing this evening. In some ways, even though the Shema is the central part of this service, this is the reminder of why, you know, and maybe when we were commanded to do this, and for how long we've been doing it, because this does come right out of Exodus.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat. Let the descendants of Israel guard and keep the Sabbath. So before we go back to the end of my devar that I started at the beginning of the service, we're going to do a silent Amidah. I know many of you are sitting around your dinner table, and so feel free to sit, to stand, to, you know, if you're into it, do the traditional Amidah, which, as Rabbi Dan would tell you, it can be found on page 91 to 107, but really it can be found in the innermost yearnings of your heart. So let's just take a few minutes and sit silently and think about how lucky we really are. Hopefully you've spent a few minutes counting your blessings, admiring your beautiful children, being tolerant of your somewhat annoying but loving parents, and just genuinely realizing how very, very fortunate we are to be here in this time, even with the violence and even with the threat of disease. We are incredibly blessed. And we're going to conclude the Amidah with Oseh Shalom. If you have a Siddur, it's on page 107, and yeah, it's on page 107. It's in, oh no, it's transliterated too. So let's sing Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yamru amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'yamru amen. So we spent a little bit of time being quiet and being thankful. Let's just talk a little bit about this story. Remember at the beginning of the service I said this was a story about 5 sisters whose father passed away without a son, that at this time land passed by primogeniture to the firstborn son in the family,
and if there was none, the sisters lost their inheritance, and the lands apparently went back to the tribe. They were members of Manasseh, and it's about the leaders of Manasseh that this twist. So the twist in the story comes about, and let me tell you a little bit more. So this guy was named Selachthad, the guy who passed away, and as I said, his 5 daughters who were going to lose their home went to Moses and basically said, "Hey, this isn't fair. We deserve to have our father's name carried on, our lineage carried on." And as I told you in Pinchas last week, God agreed with the sisters, and they got the land. Now, in the next parsha, I guess the leaders of Manasseh hear about this, and they have a worry, and it's this worry that causes God to rethink his decision. So they go to Moses and they go, "Hey, if these women marry outside of Manasseh, then these tribal lands, which were supposed to be part of our tribe forever and ever and ever, are going to pass outside of the tribe, and we will lose the land." So again, Moses kind of scratches his head and says, "You got a point." So Moses goes back to God, and he tells him what the leaders had said. I always find this funny because if God's all knowing and omniscient, I'm not really sure why Moses has to go tell him, because he was probably there in the room. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. The interesting thing here is that God sides with the leaders of Manasseh. Now, he's just told, in last week, he told the sisters, "Yeah, your land," but he finds meaning and value in what the leaders of Manasseh say, and what he says to Moses to tell the sisters is, there are some conditions to your getting this land. The sisters only got the land if they married a man of their own tribe. So what do you make of this? Imagine this is you or your daughter, and the authorities have just come down and said, "Well, yeah, you're free to pick, but only within your own tribe. No going over to the to the nice-looking boys of the other tribe. You got to stay with your own." I can imagine that from the perspective of the sisters, this might have seemed to be a sort of an intolerable demand. Yeah, you can have your land, but I'm going to tell you who you can't marry. Why should they have this restriction on marriage? Men wouldn't have had that problem because of primogeniture. It seems really like a big infringement on their rights to me, and it seems like, or it seemed at least from the beginning of this story, like it was not fair to me, and I think perhaps judged by modern standards, having a Danville girl marry her San Ramon sweetheart and having the lands of Danville pass to San Ramon, it's ridiculous, and that wouldn't happen. But I think that's what's really important, and this really brings this home, is you gotta not pay attention to the details, but you gotta pay attention to the overriding message, which is sometimes pretty hidden. I think we can all agree, like I said, that this was a pretty crappy thing to happen to the 5 sisters. This restriction seemed to me to be unreasonable. But I think what is being said here is that society, in this case symbolized by the tribe of Manasseh, has rights too. In other words, there's the rights of the collective and the rights of the individual, and those things have to be balanced. Said another way, some rights come with responsibilities, and perhaps in that time and in that context, those sisters had a responsibility to keep the tribal lands in the tribe. And what they're basically saying, what the Torah is basically saying here is, yeah, we live in a free country, but freedom is not free. It comes with responsibilities. It's about balance. It's about weighing the rights of the individual against the rights of society. We talk about this being a free country, but there's much less talk about responsibilities that come along with this freedom. To defend the nation in times of war, to vote, to stay on the right side of the road, to not despoil the environment, to look out for our neighbor, and yes, to wear a mask and wash our hands a lot. I know many of us would look at this story on its face as something that is very sexist and very dated and not find value in it. I remember doing some Torah study with Arik Labowitz many years ago, and not being able to draw anything out of the whatever it was we were talking about, and it seemed to me to be ancient and irrelevant. And what I'm finding as I grow older and as I study more and more, that if you work at it, you can pull these everlasting principles out of these seemingly arcane and ancient stories that don't seem to have any meaning in today's society. So I think what is being said, with the two bookend stories in Pinchas and in here in Matot Maseh, is that yes, your rights are important, but consider the rights of those around you. That being a good individual is also being a good member of society. So I hope as you read and as you study, and you could do this in take 20 minutes and open the book and read a little bit. And just think about it. I find that it becomes more and more interesting the more that I do it. So I hope that as you study Torah, as we study together, that we all look for the everlasting lessons in life, and maybe the details aren't quite as important as we thought they were. I hope we can all savor the journey to understanding and wisdom, because you can make that journey last a lifetime if you want to, by continuing to read, learn, and grow. So that's a little tiny story inside Pinchas and Matot Maseh. It's about the Torah talking about the democratic principles that basically underlie our very nation. So I see echoes of the Constitution in this parsha, in the story of these five sisters, and I think that's really cool that thousands of years ago, the people who wrote this down, who were thinking about stuff like that. So that's the story of the five sisters. That's what I wanted to talk about tonight. I find this so weird because I don't like to just talk. I think those of you who've been at one of my other services know that I like this to be interactive, and I'm finding it very uncomfortable that nobody's saying, well, that's interesting, or yawning, or whatever, or adding in their own sentiments. So I think I'm droning on and on because of that. So let's take a minute to think about those in our community who are ill and in need of healing. And I'm gonna sing the Anna Elna. You can feel free to sing it with me, and at the end I'll ask you to speak out loud the names of those people who you want to know are in your hearts and in your minds as they get better, and as those who are caring for them work so hard to help them. Anna Elna Refana Anna Elna Refana Anna refanala anna elna refana. So now, as you sit around your dinner table or in your family room or on the living room couch, I invite you to call out the names of loved ones and friends who are in need of prayer. I know we're not together, but and it may be only you that hears what you're saying. You may be alone and listening tonight and watching tonight, but the action sets the intention. The intention to call, to text, to send a card, or even a pot of soup. The intention leads to action, leads to comfort and healing. So take a minute, think about those in need, and call out their names. God of compassion, source of healing, who blessed Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Sarah, Rachel, Rebecca, and Leah, we pray to you on behalf of all of the people in our hearts who are sick and ailing and hopefully getting better, and we pray for all the people who take care of them. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, and give strength to those who lovingly provide for them with care, and let us say, Amen. So now we're going to move to the conclusion of the service, and I'm starting to get a dry throat, so I'm going to take another sip of Chardonnay, or of Cabernet. Boy, that's good. Sorry, I forgot where we were. We're gonna do the Aleinu. And for those of you who do have the Siddur, it's on pages 121 to 125. And if you can, stand. If you can't, don't worry about it, because you're there in your house. You can do whatever you want.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסי הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינה רוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, ויתדה היום והשבותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר וחי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
And always, as we always do at the conclusion of the service, we take a minute to remember those of us who have been in our lives and are in our lives no longer, but live on in our hearts. This week's yard site list includes Charlotte Hyman, mother of Lynn Katz, Robert Mueller, father of Jeffrey Mueller, Steve Chasen, father of David Chasen, Rose Letterman, mother of Herb Letterman, Frances Klein, mother of Art Klein, Marilyn Taylor, mother of Kelly Holden, and Jeanette Candell, mother of Sandy Morris. And if you have a yard site tonight, I invite you to intone the name of the loved one who is in your heart tonight. So now we're going to turn to page 121. And I think this one, those of you who are observing a yard site, I hope that you will stand for this, because I think I'm sorry, 131. I said 121. I think that standing says something. It's just like it's a sign of respect for elders who are gone. And so, if you are observing a yard site tonight, I invite you to stand. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah v'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael v'agalat v'zman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam ulmei olmaya yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpoar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran v'alma v'yamru amen. Yehei shalom Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yamru amen. So, oops, I did not get a chance to check the happenings today, so I'm not going to tell you all of the exciting things that are coming up on Zoom and to you virtually from all of us. But I invite you, especially in this time when we can't be together, to read. I think our leadership does a really great job of trying to not give you too much, not overload you with information, and so if you read the weekly happenings, it'll take you 5 minutes, and it's a great way to stay connected with the community in times when you can't necessarily be connected otherwise. So Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for being with me, for coming together with us. I hope that this has been a way to begin a time of rest, a time of joy, a time of family, and that as you turn off your iPads and monitors, that you have transitioned fully from the stressful week of work, whether you are at work or working at home, to a day when your home is transformed into a place of joy, of rest, and of peace. Shabbat Shalom. Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom Alechem, Heveinu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem. Chaim.